Hello everyone! A while back, Hoyoverse has released a new game called Zenless Zone, or ZZZ for short, and I've been playing it quite a bit lately. I actually streamed some gameplay of the story mode in my channel before, and I hope to stream it again. Either way, the streams are still available if you're curious. So today, I'll be taking some of my favorite ZZZ characters and reimagining them as magical girls / magical guardians. If I didn't get to draw your favorite character, please comment down below so that I know which characters you guys would be interested in if I were to make a part 2 to this video. And now, let's get to it. Let's start with the leader of the Cunning Hares, Nicole. Nicole is one of the first characters that we're introduced to, as well as one of the free playable characters that we get right from the get-go. When we meet her for the first time, she leaves quite the mark. Her expression is almost always similar to a smirk, and her mouth does that really cute cat mouth shape. She also has a very cat-like personality, which I can appreciate. I feel like her personality is really well defined. She's very snarky and sarcastic, often provoking her opponents and teasing her teammates. Her defining characteristic, however, is her relationship with money. Now, I haven't gotten too far into the story, and I really don't want to get spoiled, so when researching for this video, I was really careful not to accidentally spoil myself. From what I understand, Nicole has been on the streets for many years, and probably she came from a very modest background. Now, as an adult, she's fascinated with money. She always tries to get good deals with FIFON, and she always tries to price her commissions sorta high. I do think she deserves the money she asks for, since she and her team give their all during missions. Nicole and consequently her team have an all-or-nothing approach and end up being very reckless, sometimes putting their life on the line or even breaking or damaging what they had to retrieve for the commission in the first place. She has indeed been blacklisted from multiple clients for this. Still, despite this fascination with money and all the work she puts into getting said money, she is notably terrible at managing it. During the gameplay, we are reminded multiple times that the Cunning Hares are always close to bankruptcy, and from our conversations with our MC characters, we can get to the conclusion that Nicole owes quite a bit of money. Despite all her faults, I think she's a pretty great character because from what I've played, I can tell that Nicole is incredibly loyal to her teammates. She would never leave them behind during a mission, and she would go as far as paying more than she otherwise would to get them to a safe place. When it comes to gameplay, she's a support character and she is pretty fun to play with. Not as fun or powerful as her Cunning Hare peers, but still fun nonetheless. When designing her magical girl version, I wanted to emphasize the heart and bunny theming that she has going on. Big heart earrings, big heart gem, heart cufflinks and a sweetheart neckline. The bows on her hair are shaped like bunny ears, her bungaboo is tied to her waist with a big black bow, and I was even able to sneak in the head silhouette of a bunny as her pupil. Next up we have our favorite android Billy Kid. Billy is another member of the Cunning Hares, and he is my absolute favorite ZZZ character. When you first look at his design, you get the feeling that he is pretty serious and dangerous. In fact, when I first saw him, he kind of reminded me of Reaper from Overwatch because of his mask and the way he would yield his two guns. But from the moment he opened his mouth, I knew this guy was everything but serious. Billy is silly, playful and childish. He's easygoing and rarely takes anything seriously, often making jokes and references during serious moments. At first I was a bit confused regarding what he was. At first I thought he was a cyborg, so a human with robotic enhancements. But after reading a little bit more about him, it seems that he is an android, aka 100% machine and AI. But he is a self-aware and conscious android. Still, I don't know if it's a translation thing or if it's just me having my definitions mixed up. Billy sometimes is still referred to as a cyborg. Because he's an android, his model doesn't actually have a mouth, eyebrows, or even pupils. Still, he is incredibly expressive, probably one of the most expressive characters because of the way they deform his mask, animate him with a lot of squash and stretch, and of course his body language. At the end of the day, he gives me pretty strong Deadpool vibes, which couldn't be further from my first impressions of him. He's also pretty nerdy. He loves this show called The Starlight Knights, which is clearly a parody of the Power Rangers. He often quotes characters and acts like a Starlight Knight. And because I like him so much, I actually got a Starlight Knight W engine just for him. W engines are essentially weapons or power-ups, I suppose, that you can upgrade, and it will affect how powerful the character gets. And because he loves Starlight Knights, it got me thinking that maybe he'd be a magical girl enthusiast as well, because, let's be real, what are Power Rangers if not magical girls but quote-unquote made for boys? If you look at it from far enough, it's basically the same thing. So when I was designing his magical boy version, I drew him in a very friendly pose and based his outfit mostly on the main character of the Starlight Knights. That's why he has a star piece in his helmet, as well as star cufflinks, star pins, and of course a long flowing scarf with constellation patterns. I imagine that if this design was ever implemented in-game, the constellations in his scarf would be in constant movement. Next up, we have Nekomata. Nekomata is a cat girl, and she's the newest member of the Cunning Hares. We actually meet her pretty early on in chapter 1, and she is in fact the main focus of said chapter. Because of that, I'm not sure how much I'm willing to say about her, because I really don't want to spoil it. This can also serve as a reminder that we got to play the first part of chapter 1 on the second ZZZ stream. Anyway, Nekomata was actually the first ZZZ character I ever saw because she was the main focus on a cutscene that went viral because of how insanely good the animation was. And I have to say that I feel like they really have a lot of fun animating Nekomata. She's quick, flexible, and agile like a cat. She also seems to have a knack for the theatrics, since she exaggerates her movements and seems to play on the fact that she's part cat. Even in the way she speaks, she adds meows every now and then, just to be cute. She also seems to have an obsession with mackerel. I love her dynamic with the other Cunning Hares. Her relationship with Hamby starts off as a very rough one. They seem to hate each other, and Billy even mentions that surprisingly, Ambi isn't a cat person. Billy, on the other hand, seems to be a cat person considering the way he treats Nekomata. She's also a pretty fun character to play with. She's really fast and can dodge pretty easily. When fighting, she jumps around a lot and her attacks are powerful. She was really fun to play with in the trial version, because yes, unfortunately, Nekomata is one of the first characters that you meet that you need to play the gacha to have her permanently on your team. And unfortunately, she isn't available on the gacha, at least not at the time of recording. When designing her magical girl version, I took her design elements and simplified them. I also made her bell bigger and on a big bow on her chest. I also gave her a skirt and turned the triangle barcode mark that she has on her forehead into an upside down heart shape. Another thing I wanted to mention was that in her original design, Nekomata actually has long hair. It's just pulled back into a ponytail. However, I really like her having short hair, so I just cut her ponytail entirely. At the end of the day, she turned out really cute. And finally, we have Corin. Corin is the only character in this video that isn't part of the Cunning Hares. Rather, she is part of the Victoria housekeeping faction. She's a maid and her design seems to be inspired by Frankenstein. In fact, according to a chatter on my stream, everyone in Victoria housekeeping seems to be inspired by horror movie characters. She's really sweet and she clearly gives her all at her job, and supposedly she's really good and competent at it. However, this girl has a very serious case of imposter syndrome paired up with low confidence and a twinge of anxiety. At the part I'm in, we haven't gotten the chance to see much of her. We actually just meet her once and only get to play as her for a little bit. Despite that, she easily became one of my favorite characters right after Billy, and I'm not sure if it's because I have sort of a soft spot for anxious characters or if it's because she reminds me so much of my character Himari. Regardless, I love her nonetheless. When you look at her, you'd think that her weapon would be pretty quote-unquote soft, if you can say that about a weapon. Like, I don't know, a sword or maybe even a gun. But no, this girl's weapon is a full-blown chainsaw. And I love that. Not only because it contrasts perfectly with her personality, but also because it makes her really fun to play as. The chainsaw is really powerful and allows you to attack more than one enemy at the same time for longer periods of time. All the characters are pretty fun to play as, but she is really fun. Corin is like Nekomata, a character that you'd only get to have forever through the gacha system. However, since ZZZ got to a milestone of downloads, for a while they were offering her for free to celebrate. And I was able to catch her. Since then, I've played with her in my team multiple times. I was able to level her up to level 20 as well. My only issue is that I want to have her and Billy in the same team, but because they are both attack characters, in the strategic sense, it just doesn't seem very smart to pair them together when the max characters you can play with at once is 3. But that's more of a me problem than a ZZZ problem. When designing her magical girl version, I really leaned on her maid theming. She already kinda looks like an edgy magical girl, so I really didn't have to do much. I mainly just added more big bows, more ruffles, and I shaped her apron to a heart shape, just like in the Tokyo Mew Mew maid uniforms. I'm really proud of how she came out. Before we end this video, I'd love to thank fan artist Kitty on Twitter for their amazing fan art. Their link is going to be in the description. If you'd like to have your fan art shouted out in my videos, just tag me in your posts on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or Kara. And with that, thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe if you liked the video. If you wanna see more stuff from me, I'm also on Instagram and Twitter at momopurin_chan and on Kara at momopurin. Thank you so much, and until next time,